Hello, my name is Anita and I'm a therapist and a coach. And in this video, we're going to look at why another diet is not the answer to your eating and food issues. A lot of people have been in that situation that they have tried like almost every diet in the book, and they have tried with their willpower to eat whatever it is that what they were supposed to be eating according to the diet plan that they were on. And very often they end up with maybe only be able to stay on the straight and narrow for a short period of time, or maybe they lose weight with their willpower, but when the diet is over they gain the whole thing back, and sometimes even with a few more kilos as interest. If you are that person, then you have tested the diet theory really thoroughly. It's like Einstein said, why keep doing the same thing all over again and expect a different result? And when you have tested something that thoroughly, maybe it's not you that's something wrong with. Maybe it's a method. Because when you do the dieting thing, three things usually happen. The body goes into emergency mode, and that means that the body can end up in a situation where it works against you and asks you to eat more, and maybe also holds on to whatever fat you have on your body. This is not just something I'm saying, but if you have studied the research on what happens to people when they diet, what simply happens like physically, when the body turns down the amount of calories that it's spending like for every day, and people end up in a situation where they get more urges and more need to eat. There have been a lot of studies on this. I think my favorite one, that's the one from like the 40s, the Philadelphia uh, nutrition experiment. And here they are testing what happens to people when they have been starving for a long time. And they have like men in the study, and men who are really healthy and don't have any like issues with food or anything like that. And they are trying to test what happens to them when they have been starving for a long time, and if they lose a certain amount or percentage of their body weight. And these men really developed things that were really close to eating disorders. They became obsessed with food. Some even started to overeat and throw up, and got really specific about how they would eat, and they started hiding the food and all of that. Interesting enough, also their bodies uh, turned down the amount of calories that were burned, meaning that they had to reduce what they were eating even more to be in a place where they lost weight. And after that diet situation, they were kind of desperate to get to like a place where they could like eat and refeed their body again. So this is not something that is just like taken out of the blue. This is what happens to people when you treat your body like that. That study is interesting because, yes, it's from the 40s, and you're not really allowed to do that kind of research anymore because you can't treat people like that. But still, even though we have that study and several other studies have shown similar results since then, people are still being told the lie that we are supposed to be dieting and we're supposed to starve ourselves and count our calories and that our body is a math piece. But that's simply not true. So don't go down that path. Also, the second thing, when you base everything on willpower, well, it can only work for as long as you have willpower left in your account. And willpower is something that we will run out of. There's actually studies on that too. One study is pretty interesting because it shows that if you had two groups of people, and they were sitting in a room, and you had two plates on the table in front of them. One was with radishes and one was with fresh baked cookies. Half of the people in the study were told they were not allowed to eat the cookies. They could only eat the radishes. And then they were supposed to be fixing some complicated puzzles that didn't really have any solution. The people who were not allowed to eat the cookies, they spent their willpower on not eating the cookies. Of course, they were hungry when they went into this room. And they gave up a lot before with the puzzles than the people who were allowed to eat the cookies. So the conclusion was that people spend up part of their willpower on not eating the cookies, and then they had less willpower left to fix the puzzles. So that is just one example. We will run out of willpower, and that's actually why a lot of people end up with overeating late in the day, because that's when we don't really have any willpower left, especially if you had a lot going on. That's also why when you are in a stress period, most people are more prone to overeating if that's a pattern of theirs. So if you end up in that situation, the third thing, you end up beating yourself up, and that can lead to the all or nothing pattern, where you have the straight and narrow with the restrictions and the rules and everything you are not allowed to do. And then from time to time, you slip up and eat all the stuff you're not supposed to do. And then you can beat yourself up again. And that's a pattern that's really common for people who overeat, and actually really painful. I've been there myself, so know the feeling. But could it be that it's not you? It's not you that there's something wrong with. It's the method. It's the dieting method with the willpower and the restriction and no calories and all of that. Could that be? If you agree with me on that, well, then I hope that you will have seen that doing another diet is not going to resolve your problems. So what can you do instead? And that's, of course, the very interesting question to be asking yourself, I think. What I like to think about is, why do I need this? Why do I need to be eating more than my body needs to function? What does it give me? Because as long as you need the eating for something, it's really going to be hard for you to stop it, because we're not masochists here. And as you might have noticed, when you're trying to stop yourself from eating and you really, really have the urge, the craving, the need, then that's hard. And for me, I came to the conclusion that I was not going to be able to stop myself when I have urges every time, because I wouldn't have enough willpower to do it every time. So to me, I went out on a journey to find out how I could make the urges go away so they wouldn't be running my life anymore. And that led to what we're doing here today. So some people try other solutions, give themselves something else like drinking or cigarettes or buying stuff for themselves and all of that. And that's why you see that a lot of people, like if they stop smoking, then they eat more. Or people who try not to overeat, they end up maybe drinking more and stuff like that. So if you are replacing the food with something else, well, yeah, you can do that for a while. But the thing is, most people don't really want to be drinking more or be smoking more or stuff like that. So distractions like that, or they don't usually work. Some people go, okay, I can go for a walk. And yes, that can work for as long as you have willpower left. But again, when you run out of willpower, then a healthy distraction like going for a walk is not usually going to cut it. You need to fix your why. You need to fix why you need it, because when you do that, you don't need it anymore. And when you don't need it anymore, the habit part, the letting go of it, that's pretty easy. As long as you need it for something, it's going to be really, really hard. So how can I find my why? Well, let's look into what the most common whys are. And we often find them in our patterns, the way we talk to ourselves, what we believe around who we are, who we're supposed to be in the world, what is good enough, what is not good enough. We might even also have some old emotions that can be triggered. I call those red buttons. And something can also be on how we treat ourselves. So people have different patterns. Yes, there are a lot of similarities, but we still have to find what's going on specifically for you, because you can't really use a neighbor's solution. You have to find your specific patterns. So to find those, you need to look at your data. When do you get urges? What happens in those situations? You need to look for the patterns here, because they will be there even though you may not see them like clearly in the beginning. And if you don't do that, well, maybe then it can be useful for you to get some help to to find out what your patterns are. Some common patterns here. Well, of course, we talked a little bit about the body being in emergency mode. I have created another video that you can find here on the channel about what happens to the body when you diet, if you want to look a little bit more into that. So another pattern can be around our thoughts. Some people have what we call the inner bully, and that means that we have like some kind of like self-talk, negative self-talk, telling ourselves that you're not good enough, you should be doing something better, you have to do this or that for it to be okay, people don't like you, they are thinking negative thoughts about you, they think that you're not doing it good enough, I'm not allowed to say no, I have to be there for other people, I'm not allowed to treat myself nicely, stuff like that. It's different, of course, from person to person, what it is your negative self-talk is telling you. But the thing is, when you have negative self-talk, the first thing you would usually do is to try to be better, to follow the rules and be in a place where you are not doing anything wrong, and and you are doing what the bully says you're supposed to be doing, so he or she can be happy. The thing is, he or she is never going to be content. So yeah, when you treat yourself like that, it's painful. And when you have to listen to all that stuff all the time, that's painful. And people in that situation are very often using food and using the chocolate and the cakes and the eating as some kind of emotional painkiller. And as long as you have that pain, well, then it's going to be difficult for you to get rid of the painkiller, simply because then you will have to endure the pain. Of course, there can also be some habit part. And here we can see that people sometimes are connecting the eating to something nice, like cakes and birthdays and candy and Saturday and stuff like that. And that depends on what experiences you have had in your life. So when you are in a lot of pain, a lot of people end up with, okay, this is painful, so I'm going to need something nice to remove that pain. And what you're eating here is usually what you have connected in your conditioning to what feels nice or loving or caring or all of that stuff for you. So if you don't fix your patterns, what's lying behind for you, then the eating issues will usually come back, or they will be replaced by other painkillers. Meaning that, yes, you can stop things from happening. You can stop yourself from eating, following the diet plan and all of that. But the thing is, to make it sustainable in the long run, you need to fix why you're eating. As long as you haven't fixed that, well, when you run out of willpower, or when you end up in a more stressful situation, or if your negative self-talk for some reason gets more active, then it usually comes back. So I would really recommend fixing it if you want a permanent solution. A lot of people go, okay, I can do the lifestyle change. And they decide to eat in a different way. And yes, you can do it for a limited period of time. But if you have these patterns and you're using the eating to give yourself some kind of relief, then I would really recommend that you fix it. But you need to have someone with you to fix it that knows what we are talking about. So if people don't know these things, it can be hard for someone to help you to resolve it. Yeah, because if they don't have the roadmap, how are they going to be able to give it to you? So if you're curious about all of this and you want to know more, then we have more videos, of course, here in this channel. And we also have a webinar, and you can look on our webpage, and you are welcome to book a call with one of us. So you can follow the link below the video, and maybe we'll talk. Have a great day.